Okay. We are here celebrating the 70th wedding anniversary of Eldon and Kathleen Harden. And there are many questions that the family has about what has happened in those 70 years. And so this will unveil all these answers we've been dying to know. We're starting with Amy.
Where was your first date?
Where?
Where did you take her on your first date?
Having some trouble with
The
connection.
courthouse in Moulton. That's where we went for our first date. And we walked around the square in Moulton.
So that was your first date?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. Grace?
Do you remember your first kiss? And were you married before your first kiss or after?
I don't
No,
remember
we wasn't married, no.
I don't remember the first kiss, but
I don't remember it, but we wasn't married.
Okay.
Well, do you remember your last kiss, and was it before or after you got married? Your last kiss, not your first
kiss
one.
has been about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
it's not right.
That's not right. That's about
On
right
my
for me.
birthday, he kissed me. I mean, on my Valentine's Day.
On Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
That's a good day. Next question.
Josh, you have a question?
What's your biggest regret or your biggest achievement? Biggest regret or biggest achievement?
Biggest achievement when we got married.
Well, I haven't had no regrets, but I haven't achieved a whole lot.
What
You've
about you,
achieved a
Mother?
whole lot.
Yeah.
We think you have.
What is your biggest regret, Mother?
Not having more kids. And for putting my church before my family.
Oh.
Okay. Emily, do you have a question?
Were you named after a family member, or did your name have a meaning?
I wasn't named after a family member. Did you?
I don't know. I don't know if I was
I
or
guess
wasn't.
No, I don't think he must have not have either.
It probably wasn't. Just,
Yeah.
they just picked a name out of a hat, I guess.
I've never known any hats with the name Eldon on it.
Now throw the other
They
one
picked
away.
that because it was Eldon, Edsel, Edward, Estes. They were all E's.
They were all E's except for one, right?
Willard.
Willard got a W.
Okay, Kathy.
Do you remember the first grocery bill you went to the grocery store and got, and how much was it?
Well, when we got married, we didn't have anything to start housekeeping on. We didn't have a shower. So we went to the store and bought a few little things. And I think our first grocery bill probably wasn't over $2 or $3.
What'd you get? A loaf of bread?
Well, back then, you see, things didn't cost like they do now.
About $6 to buy a week's supply.
Okay.
I didn't know nothing about question and answers.
We can come
So
back
you don't have a
around.
question- Okay. Do you have any questions?
No questions. I've been there.
Okay. How did you meet?
We met at, you want to tell them? You've
No,
been
go
talking
ahead.
much.
You're doing pretty good.
Out at North Alabama, close to Moulton, there was a party.
What kind of party?
Just
It's a party where young people would meet and they would play games. They would go walking and they'd play a game that told you that what you got to do. You got to go walking.
Okay.
And so I went with another guy that night. his name was
Calvin.
Calvin Shelton. Well, when I saw him, I just didn't pay any attention to Calvin anymore. We went walking, and that was it.
Is that when you knew you were in love?
Eldon knew he'd been hooked.
Did he kiss you that night?
Do what?
Did you kiss her that night?
I really don't remember.
I don't think so.
I don't remember.
Did you shake her hand or
They
something?
didn't do that back then, Rhonda. Kiss
So-
on the first date.
So, Mama, you left poor Calvin there by himself?
Well, he took me home.
He did take you home?
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay.
Probably the only one that had a car.
And you never saw Calvin again?
Yeah.
Did you go out with him again?
No. Calvin was his cousin.
Oh, the plot
I
thickens.
think he was his cousin.
Hey, I got a question.
Okay.
Eldon, what year did you go to Korea?
53.
And you came back to Pike Avenue in 56?
The 53, the latter part of 54. I
Okay.
was gone 18 months, 2 years.
And he got saved right after he got back.
Yeah, I was dating Jim. I was coming to Pike Avenue some then, when he got saved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We skipped Sue now.
You
She's sitting
remember
back
the,
there too quiet.
you remember the guy that run a revival?
The what?
Man that was running a revival when we got
Was
saved?
it Rippy Toe?
No.
Bobby Ross,
Oh,
Brother Ogle's brother-in-law.
So that's when you got saved. It was at Pike Avenue Church of God during a revival with Bobby Ross.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Sue now. Do you have a question?
not right this minute.
Okay. Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
It just came to me. What do you say is the biggest contributing factor to 70 years together?
Don't argue, just make him think he's right.
Leon?
Did I hear don't argue?
Just make him think he's right.
But God is the source of our life. He's the one that brought us together. He's the one that kept us through so many things.
Amen.
Trials, heartaches, and happiness, and God's been there and brought us through it.
Josh and Caleb. I mean, Caleb and Ed. Y'all got any questions?
How old were y'all when y'all met?
About 17 and a half,
And you got married when you were 18?
18.
So
Wow.
y'all didn't date very long.
Go ahead.
You got it, you got
So,
it.
Rhonda's pretty much asked what I was gonna ask.
You can ask more than one question
Yeah, I
too,
mean, if
if
there's
somebody
something
has
else.
another question.
Were you both saved at the same time or at different times?
No, I was saved down in Mount Hope at a revival. When Claire Jean was living down there and we were going to this revival, I was saved then and filled with the Holy Ghost the day of the Korean War, that the Korean War signed, that was over. They signed the truce, and I received the Holy Ghost that night in a revival down at
Mount Hope.
Mount Hope.
What were you fixing to ask?
Was that Harris Chapel?
Yeah, Harris Chapel.
Is it still there?
Yes. Active church.
Okay.
Can you tell us about the day that you got married and where you got married, who went with you, or
Anything about that?
You
The
wanna tell
details?
Go ahead, tell him.
His brother was the only one that had a car back then in the family, and he was a minister. And he took us to Mississippi, and my mother went with us.
what city?
Iuki.
Iuka, Mississippi. Mother went with us for a witness. And we came back, on the way back home, Mother looked back at us, we were in the back seat, and said, Esther says, they look sleepy. And Mother said, I bet they sleep good tonight. And so we came on back to Mother's, and Esther brought us to Birmingham. And we lived in a house with his mother and daddy, a rooming house. We rented a room from them.
Is that where you spent your honeymoon?
Yeah,
Yeah.
what we had.
And he was
We didn't have.
making, I think, $35 a week, or maybe $20 a week. And I never had talked on the phone. And he called me from work, and I couldn't hear him, and I was holding the phone upside down. And he quit his job, and he found out real quick he couldn't live on love alone. So he got him another job, but
Why did you quit your job?
to be with me. Tell him to be with me.
So you did.
Eldon needs to talk some more.
Yeah, you need to talk.
What was your first job that you had when you got married?
Well, I already had this little job at this fabricating shop. But wasn't long after we got married, I quit. And then later I went to another job. Same type of work, but another job.
Is that when you went to Butler?
No, I went to Birmingham Iron Works and worked there until I got on at Butler's. And I started work at Butler's $1 an hour.
$1 an hour. Wow.
Okay, I have a question. This is strictly just for me. Tell me about the day I was born.
Well, we had been looking forward to you know, coming, and I just went into labor, and we went to Princeton Hospital, and we were so thrilled to have another girl. And I noticed your little hands were so delicate looking. And I remembered that more than anything else, was your hands were so small and delicate. You were small. And well, that was just one happy day.
What about Kathy? She was the first.
Well, yeah, we had been married 7 years before we had children, because I had lost 2 babies and then went to Korea. And we were so thrilled to have our first one. And the same thing, about the same thing with you. Just happy to have our first baby.
So did you know how to change a diaper and do all that stuff already?
No, that you learn.
You practiced on Kathy, right?
That's born when the baby comes.
Really?
They give you a manual at the hospital.
No, it just happens.
That's when it kicks in. When that baby comes, you start.
You know how to do it.
Okay.
So what about when you had 2 girls and then you had little boys? So tell us about your little boy when he was born.
Well, we said that we've got 2
Two.
girls and then we'd like to try for a boy. So we were thrilled to have a boy, you know. And enjoyed all of them growing up and dressing them up. And with a boy, we always bought him little bow ties and a little hat on his head. Everywhere he went, he'd have a little hat on his head. So we felt like that was enough for children.
Cream on the crop.
Yeah, but I do
But
wish.
you did want to have more.
Yeah, I wanted to when I was 37 years old, and Terry was already in school. But it takes 2 to tangle, so I couldn't do it by myself.
So, Daddy, you didn't want any more.
He didn't think we should because Terry was, I've had to start all over, you see. There's one in school and taking them to school and all this, which he was about 8 years old then. So we decided, or he did. But I did have to go up for prayer because I wanted that baby so bad. But I've got 2 in heaven. I see when I get to heaven. One's a boy. I know that for sure because I was 4.5 months old. That's before he went in the service. Then the other one I wouldn't have known, you know, it was early pregnancy, so.
In those first 7 years before you had your first child, Kathy, did you ever work outside the home in a job, or what did you do those 7 years while he was at work?
I worked at JJ Newberry for several years. I don't remember now. It was about 6, 7 years. And I rode the streetcar to work. We didn't have a car till we'd been married 5 years. And I saved the money up when he was in the overseas to buy the car. 53 Chevrolet. But I rode the streetcar to work. And he, how'd you go to work?
I rode a bicycle.
Yeah, you rode a bicycle.
That was when y'all lived in Inslee.
In Inslee, yeah. He lived close to where he worked, so he rode a bicycle.
So you've raised all your children in this house? Or did you have Kathy in another house and
I
then
had
moved
Kathy.
here?
Well, we raised them all here, yeah.
Kathy was born in Inslee, I think, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was about 3. Rhonda was 5 months old when we moved here.
Okay.
And Kathy must have been about 4 when we moved here. And then we had Terry while we was here.
Now, you lived over there close to Sister Blackburn
Yeah,
when you had Kathy.
yeah.
Well, this is not a question, but it's just a comment. I was talking about you was talking about dressing your kids a while ago and dressing Terry in bow ties. I think you done the most fantastic job dressing your children when they were small. They always look so pretty.
Especially,
And I remember that.
especially with the budget they were on.
And I mean, I was probably just, I don't know how old I'd been.
And we
12,
loved to dress
14 or
up.
something? I don't know.
We loved to dress up and go to church. We'd all be
sit
dressed
up all
up.
night making dresses.
Romeo, do you have a question for your mama and papa?
I got a question, if this is not too personal.
Uh-oh.
If it is, I won't answer.
Okay. I know when you moved here, how much did you pay for this house?
You want to answer? 11.5.
11.5.
And your house payment was what,
Counting the taxes and everything, $66.
$66 a month?
And paid on it for 30 years.
Wow.
In your power bill, how was it? I'm sure
Hey.
it was.
$1,500.
It wasn't like it is now.
Of course, y'all didn't have this room
No,
And the
Or the
back
back
room.
room.
or the back room, so
neither.
it's a small
Yeah.
house.
But I enjoyed my family. I enjoyed raising my family.
We come home from school every day, you could smell supper cooking.
We'd have chicken on every Thursday.
Yep.
And my
Fried
neighbor
chicken.
over there would make a habit coming over here every Thursday because she knew I was making chicken. And we would each one have our certain piece to eat,
Yep.
you know.
I got the back.
The back.
The last piece that flew off the feet.
And we had a garden ever since we've been here, and we used to raise a lot of our food. Canned beans and corn and
That come to screeching halt, so.
Well, back then, you bought chickens, whole chickens.
Yeah.
You didn't buy them parts like,
You didn't
They're
hardly
sold
buy
mostly
parts
now.
then, it was all whole.
that's why each person had their pick of the part of the chicken they wanted.
And I remember being at your mother's house one time when she killed a chicken.
Me too.
And I couldn't watch it. I couldn't watch it, but I remember her bringing that chicken in and doing whatever she did with it. Because Mother didn't do that. But yeah, I remember Aunt Irene killing that chicken.
Oh, we used-
Them never had farm chickens
We used
on the yard.
to lay their head on the chop block and take an axe and cut his head off and throw him out there. And boy, he'd clean up the
Flop all over.
backyard before he died.
You had to bleed out.
Okay.
So I have one more question. I know this is taking a while. Daddy, I want you to tell me about growing up as a pastor's kid. A preacher's kid. You weren't a pastor's kid. Tell me a few things about your childhood.
Well, there's not a whole lot to tell. Most of the time, Daddy wasn't at home preaching. He was off somewhere else.
So when he was off preaching, y'all were at home.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And did you grow up in that little house over there by Joyce's?
Yeah.
By Joyce,
Yeah, that little house that Joyce's church uses.
Yeah.
Is that
Oh,
the
yeah.
house you grew up
yeah,
in?
they done tore it down.
Oh.
Pushed it down and built a church.
Okay, but that's where you grew up.
Yeah.
And you grew up on the Blewett Young place.
Well, on a lot of places.
Yeah.
They
But,
moved a lot.
Yeah.
How
The
far
van-
apart did y'all live when you were dating?
He lived in
I lived
Birmingham.
here and she lived.
So how'd you do that if all you had was a bicycle?
No, bicycle was when I went, after we got married and I went to work. But I
So you
didn't have,
had a car.
He
I
hitchhiked.
didn't have no car till after I got out of service.
So you hitchhiked from
here
here to the
To
country
Decatur,
My goodness.
just to see her?
That's love.
to see her or anybody
Hey,
else.
listen, count your blessings.
I could,
Listen, there's not many guys now would do that for a girl.
I could get over.
Josh, you go hitchhike from
no.
He
here.
just said I wouldn't do that.
I could hitchhike from here to Decatur quicker than you could ride a bus.
And who did you spend the night with down there whenever you came to see me? You spent the night somewhere.
What with Edsel,
Some of your brothers.
Thrashers?
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time with Thrashers.
Well, well.
Jim lived out here in Forestdale. I lived Woodlawn. And he said a lot of nights going home, he didn't remember passing places. Had to get home, he had to go to
Well,
work
thank you,
next day.
Mother, for
Yes,
tolerating us. Anybody else?
Papa,
You
how
know
long
I-
were you in Korea? Papa, how long were you in Korea? How long were you there?
Well, counting leave time, 2 years. Well, not 2 years. I spent 16 weeks in South Carolina, and then they shipped us overseas.
Hey, you wanna know who the two most mischievous men in Pike Avenue were?
Who?
Eldon Hardin, DeWitt Miller.
You know, I'd like to know what happened to him.
I have no idea.
Well, wait a minute. He was mischievous how?
Just picking at you. Like, you know, I was new. I wasn't even joined the church yet. And him and DeWitt would come by. Sometimes they'd come by 4 or 5 times picking at me. Saying something to me because they knew they was going to get a rise out of it. They never did get nothing on me.
I know a question
But you
that
know-
didn't get asked. This is an important question. I don't think anybody asked. Who proposed to who, and how did you propose? Did you propose, or did you propose, and how did you do it?
I think she proposed.
No.
Oh, he's had a loss of memory.
he did, and he wrote a note to ask my daddy that could we get married, and I've still got the note.
But how did he
Oh.
propose to you? What did he say? Did you get down on one knee?
I don't know.
Where were you at when he proposed?
Well, I don't know where we was
Probably
at.
at
I
our-
wrote the note. She probably showed it to him later. I don't know.
Oh yeah, that was my daddy, but we lived on the Vinus Bass place on the Moulton Highway, and I suppose it was there where he proposed.
Okay.
That's where, but I can't remember exactly.
So he wrote you a note and somebody gave it to you, y'all weren't
No.
together.
No, he wrote a note to ask
Papa.
my daddy
Okay.
for our hand in marriage, and he said, "Mr. DeMasters, Kathleen and Eldon have decided to get married, and we want to know what you say
No,
about
what
it."
he said was Kathleen and me and Kathleen were thinking about getting married, and I wondered what you thought.
Is that what it
That's what he
said?
It's similar to that.
And Daddy said, "Well, if that's what y'all have decided, then I can't do anything about it."
So what was your answer? What was your
Yeah.
answer? Yes.
Yes, I'm supposed to.
Is there any other questions?
Now's the time.
And when we lived on the Vinus Bass place, my mother saw him kiss me, and she got so mad.
Why?
Because back then, you didn't do that.
Were you married?
Okay. And so she got mad, and I told her, I said, "Well, you won't have to," that's the only time I ever talked back to my mother. And I said, "Well, you won't have to worry about it. I won't be here much longer." So,
Okay, I have another question. Can you name all the places you lived?
No,
he can.
no, where you
I'm
live.
talking about
Oh.
where you lived growing up, being sharecroppers and moving around. Can you name all the places?
Most of them, I guess.
Well, I want to know.
We lived on the Lee place for 9 years, and that's where I was born. Then we lived on the Javanus Bass place. I've got it wrote down in my book.
Buy the book and read it.
Clyde Hood place. Avery Warren's place. That's where Magdalene was born, I think.
James Cagle and Jim.
And Daniel. And
So you never had a permanent home?
That was my baby boy.
well,
Not till you
See,
met
it was-
him.
Well, I mean, like, the Lee place, I think, is what you remember the most.
yeah.
It's all sharecrop,
Yeah.
one place.
I mean, they were always living on somebody else's property.
Yeah, but my dad bought his house, you know, after we married at the Robert Houston place in Mount Hope.
That's the house I remember?
Yeah,
Okay. So that was called the Robert Houston place.
Yeah. yeah. And that was the only house he ever owned. He had always lived in somebody else's house.
So did they get Social Security after they quit working?
Yeah,
Because he had probably never paid into it,
No,
right?
it's not Social Security, it was something else. He drawed something, but it wasn't Social Security.
But I mean, he never would have paid into Social Security.
No.
I thought about that the other day. How did they live?
Well,
WPA
at one time, they
before it
come
was
up
Social
with a deal
Security.
that an older person could pay, I believe it as much as $300 and get on Social Security.
and
He never paid.
JD was on SSI, I believe.
Yeah, he
And
did.
JD helped pay for that place. So,
Yes,
but
that's,
he didn't live there about 9 years till he died.
Your daddy?
Mm-hmm. But that's where y'all probably remember the most,
Oh, yeah.
going there.
Now, I remember going, I don't know where it was, the place where Faye and Troy lived down in the pasture.
well, you know where we have the reunion,
What reunion?
the one every year, January?
You mean?
Oh, yeah, the y'all's reunion.
December.
January.
Yeah.
Well, if you go out that door and about 2 blocks down there is the house where she's.
Okay, I remember that one, because I remember one time there were some cows or something out.
The one where
And
Troy.
we jumped in the back of a wagon.
Troy and Faye lived down there.
Troy and Faye
Yeah,
lived
that
down
was
the
the
pasture.
Clyde Hood house.
Yeah, the Clyde Hood.
Yeah.
Rhonda, is that where we went back in December? That house?
That's where y'all remember going and seeing the
that's the
cows.
Robert
Had the big whale in the front of,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that one down in the pasture, the log house was